Good morning, Eswatini. It is a Monday, the 29th of December, and this is Kusile Breakfast Show, where we locate the day's headlines in context, as well as place Eswatini within the wider world. Perhaps before we get into the day's headlines globally, interregionally, in Africa as well as in Eswatini, we do want to extend this message that Focus does a warning of continued rain and stormy conditions across Eswatini all week. We did, of course, experience some rains yesterday in some parts of the country, erratic, and we are hoping that people are safe throughout the country. We have confirmed through the National Disaster Management Agency that no harm was experienced in any parts of Eswatini, but the rains will continue throughout the rain and throughout the week, I beg your pardon, and Emaswati are urged to remain vigilant and safe. As we get into some of the leading headlines this morning, we'll start internationally, where attention remains fixed on geopolitics as well as security. There's renewed diplomatic movement around the Ukraine-Russia conflict that is even as fundamental disagreements persist. At the same time, China continues to assert technological dominance with a fresh milestone in high-speed transport. That is a reminder that indeed economic power is increasingly tied to infrastructure and innovation. Coming closer to home on the African continent, across Africa, governments remain focused on festive season safety, economic resilience, and weather-related risks as parts of the regional deal with storms, infrastructure strain, and pressure on public services. These realities continue to shape conversations around preparedness, around governance, as well as growth going into the new year. Here in Southern Africa, in South Africa specifically, the festive period has again brought crime, public safety, and emergency response into sharp focus. Law enforcement agencies under pressure to balance visibility, to balance prevention, as well as accountability during one of the busiest travel periods of the year. And now, here at home in Eswatini, these are some of the top stories that we are waking up with today, as it is a Monday. National security takes center stage. This is after intelligence services confirmed they disrupted a planned threat during the Ingwala period, with authorities maintaining heightened vigilance as cultural observances continue. On the economic front, new figures show Eswatini's trade surplus has narrowed, with exports and imports both declining in November. This is a development that matters as businesses and policymakers look ahead to 2026. And now bringing it to community news. We're seeing that governance news in community, traditional leadership in Gamzizi has restricted a pastor from holding sikuko gatherings, reopening conversations around culture, authority, and social order. And then in our sports news and social development, grassroots football receives a boost through support for referees and local leagues, underscoring the local, the role rather of community level investment beyond elite sport. Well, those are some of the stories shaping this morning around the world, in Africa, as well as in South Africa, and most importantly here at home. And we want to continue to, keep track of these developments as we kickstart our show. So stay with us. This is Kusile Breakfast Show, and your day starts here.
This festive season, Eswatini TV brings you exclusive moments from your two biggest events in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Step into the magic of the Bushfire Festival, where culture meets rhythm and every beat pulls you closer to the heart of celebration. Experience the fun from the energetic performance of some of the greatest artists to ever grace our stages. Feel the fire, the color, the movement, as if you are right there in the crowd. Then we take a trip down memory lane with scenes from the spectacular 2025 Mastercard Luchu Fashion Show under the theme, A Return to the African Future. From bold designs to unforgettable runway moments, this is elegance in full swing. If you're a food lover, enjoy the flavor, the heat, and the passion from Eswatini's top local chefs as they battle it out in the Luju Cook-Off competition, and elevate your culinary senses with a special masterclass by Chef Onezwe, showcasing technique, creativity, and world-class fare. Catch this exclusive content on Wednesday at 9 p.m. only on Eswatini TV.
Wena umuhle ubukele Kusile Breakfast Show, sichubeka nehlelo lethu sibuka tindzabade siswati ichubeke kahle ingcwala lencane esigodlweni embangweni esifundzeni saseshiselweni noSondlo eNtsambama, lapho khona ke sive siphume ngetinkhani sagidza nengwenyama. Ingcwala lencane seyihlanganise emalanga layimfica kusukela ingenile.
Ingonyama ichubekile nekhola sive egidweni kwenqola lencane esigodlweni embangweni. Lilanga langelisondlo bese kulilanga lesithathu kusukela ingenile inqola lencane eshiselweni. Kanti umkhosi wenqola wona sewuhlanganise emalanga layimfica. Ingonyama igidze isingathwe bomake emakhosikati, bantfu benkhosi nandvunankhulu, kanti solo anjene mabutho lokungilacubetelako, ingatsha, ophezu komkhono, nembali, kanti-ke bekafasile nakhololo. Sifundza saseshiselweni siwesekela ngalokugcwele umkhosi wencwala nalunyaka, njengoba kuphume tonke tinhlangothi ekutawusingatha ingonyama. Bekuphume nabo babe boshifu nebantfu benkhosi lababuke imango naso-ke sive. Umsebenzi ujinga wakhanga netivakashi taseNingizimu Afrika lebetiqhamuka emadolobheni lakhelene nesifundza lavaka ekhatsi iPiet Retief ne-Ermelo. Kubhekeke ukuthi uma sekufike emaphethelweni kugidza esigodlweni embangweni, libalele esigodlweni ebuhleni esifundzeni sakaHhohho. Lubika kwetindzabeni ngisandile Makhanya naThabiso Dlamini esigodlweni embangweni.
Kanti-ke ingcwala lencane iphindze yachubeka nekuba impumelelo esigodlweni eLudzidzini, lapho khona sive siholwa indlovukazi umhlekazi. EmaSwati ayachubeka nekungenela lo mkhosi ngebuningi.
Kuthe kubeni kukhale licilongo lekucala kugidza lagcoba tichemete mabutho tangangenwa nani ngemandi emadvolweni tavele tanikela emkhunjini esigodlweni eLudzidzini. Ingcwala lencane lapho sive siholwa khona indlovukazi mhlekazi lomhla ingene elangeni lemfica. Noma kulamalanga timvula titiningi eveni kodwa emaSwati enda siciniseko ukuthi ayayidlala inzima yawo yekugcina nekulondvolota lona mkhosi. Lilanga lengcwala lenkulu nalo seliyasondzela njengoba silo semhlaba sibheke ukuthi emalangeni lambalwa letako sikhokhe ingatsha ukuthi iye kuyawukhalisekwane. Indlovu yemhlaba esigodlweni elitsitsini beyisingethwe namakhosikazi yesilo sigodlo baba betikhulu kanye nalabanye labakhulu embusweni welive. Tinombolo tesive semaswati letingenela lo mkhosi kusukela elangeni lokuqala tisifakazelo ukuthi emaswati solo emile nekuthanda emakhosi kanye nemasiko awo. Etintsabeni kubika Pholile Maziya esigodlweni elutsitsini.
Njengoba abantu labasha babhekana netimo letahlukene letiletha netinguquko tsite ekuphileni kwabo, kumcoka ukuthi banakekeleke ngetidzingo tabo baphindze baniketwe lethemba lelikusasa lelingcono. Lokhu-ke kushiwo ngumfundisi Sipho Tembe welibandla iJordan Church in Zion kuMathapha ngesikhathi leli bandla lihlanganyele enkonzweni nebantwana besikolo ivula amasango eluyengo.
Le nkonzo yalabantwana ibanjwe ngaphansi kwesicubulo lesithi akusekho ukulahlwa kulabo labakuKristu uJesu lesithathelwe encwadzini lengcwele kubaseRoma 8 livesi lokuqala.
Every Tuesday siba ne-special prayer la sithandazela khona labazalwane. Uthite-ke uNkulunkulu salisida singagcini ngekubathandazela nje kuphela. Siniketwe le nkonzo yekuhambela labasemajele, siniketwe nenkonzo yekuhambela labasetibhedlela. So-ke njalo ngeliviki kanye ngeliviki sinale nkonzo yokuthi sibathandazele. Kulenzawo labakiyo kabakalahlwa noma abatali mhlambe sebabalahlile, tihlobo nebangani nemajaji abathole banelicala, but baba kuKristu Jesu kalisekho kucala, kakusekho kulahlwa kubo.
Lomunye wabafundisi beminyango wekucondzisa timilo kuleli umfundisi Mfundo Dlamini uthi kumcoka kuthema amabandla lehlukene awubambise lo mnyango kutakamoya njengoba abantwana labanabo badzinga kuhlonyiswa etinhlangothini letinyenti kute timilo tabo kube nguleto letakheke kahle.
Lendzawo lesikuyo indzawo letsinga kakhulu ukuvakashelwa ngoba kunebantwana lana lesikhona khona tsine babantwana nje basuka emakhaya basuka emangweni. Umntwana ke nawufuna kumlungisa njengemnyango kulungisa nekucondzisa tigwegwe kufuna laba bakubo laba labamlethe emhlabeni basonzele libandla ke nalisonzela nabo sebayabona ukuthi naku abantu abethu sesihlolelwa abantu. Siyakhutsata lokuthi emabandla naso sive bangabhala emabandla yabhala abhalele Commissioner General acele kudala ngekhathi atawukhonda lo msebenzi ngeke ukhona esodwana sibochaplain.
Leli bandla libese linikela ngekwekuthi igceba kwabodzadze lokungabita imali lengemalangene latinkulungwane letisihlanu lokutawuniketwa labo labakuswele. Kubika Mbonga Dube eMbabane.
Solo sibucayi isimo ebhange lengadi kanti-ke sikhulu isidingo sokuthi sive sinikele. Belibhange lengadi bacela sive sinikele kude kusitakale labo labadzinga ingadi. Sive-ke siyexwayiswa ukuthi lo mbiko lulandzelako unetitfombe tengadi.
Belibhange lengadi bacela sive ukuthi sinikele ngengadi kude kusitakale labo labayidzingile etibhedlela. Etikhatsini tokuphela kweminyaka kuye kube isikhathi lapho khona siba sikhulu isidingo sengadi njengoba baningi labatikhandza basetibhedlela ngetizatfu letahlukahlukene. Umlamuli Ncumalo welibhange lengadi uthi simo sibucayi khona ebhange lengadi kude ingadi ucela-ke sive ukuthi sinikele ngayo ingadi.
Simo vela siso lesikahle in terms of ingadi incane kakhulu futhi lele khona so liyaphuma etibhedlela yasebenziseka le demand isetulu kakhulu. Kungako nje si decide ukuthi noma kuma holiday sivule bantu eMaswati atakhona kusitakala ato donator. Siyabashayela futhi nalaba ke ba donate phambilini kuthi abete bato donatela Maswati siyabalanza nangetimotolo nyalo nje sibhizi ngalokho. Kuleli suku lanamuhla loyo muntu kufuna abe angilophilile kude amaphilisi lawa athathako kungaba iBP kungaba bo HIV boshukela kufuna futhi loyo muntu abe sekafikile ku16 years aye etulu but angakandluli ku65. Lo bukwenda ke kubeke ethubeni la kahle ukuthi phela siya encourage eMaswatini ukuthi kufuna ube ngumuntu loti phethe kahle ngoba lengadi lesikolekako kufuna iyosita umuntu singagcini kumbe siyibeke eceleni ngendzaba ukuthi khona lesikutholile lokungasiko lokukahle kuyo.
Thokozani Mkhwanazi lesimkhandzi anikela ngengadi khona ebhange lengadi ucela sive ukuthi sende njalo ngoba baningi labasitakalako uma unikela usuke usenzise impilo.
Kungaba kwakhuthatha nje ukuthi akungabi ukuthi sesifuna kutosita bebhidi ihlobo tethu asichubeke nje sibanikele abantu bombosi batositakala baphile. Nalolo sekhaya nje lo nayo ingadi kulamaholide akede aside siveze ngosi siphile ngoba kusasa kutabe kungumntwana wakho noma kungumama wakho noma kungubhuti wakho nakhona kutawufuna kubantu bade batobusita so kukahle lokuthi sihlale sinawo.
Kutawuthi esibhedlela lesipiki ngamsombuluko libhange lengadi linikelise ngayo ingadi. Lobikako nguGiyani Msibi kunaThemnkosi Mavimbela naFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Tiyafika emakhulwini lasiphohlongo tinkinga letibikwe bafelokati enhlanganweni uMhluma Foundation leti-ke titsenza kutsatselwa impahla ngemuva kwekushona kwebayeni babo. Umcondzisi weMhluma Foundation Lungelo Zulu uthi-ke nanoma bebete kahle timfanelo letanele tekusebenta lonyaka kodwa-ke tasebenteka letinye taletinkinga.
Tindzabente bafelokati ngicantsi leti bekhona naku leti refreshiwe office noma nema-cases labotiwe in general they are close to 800. We have a lot of cases they were referred by office like DPM eTulu nema-office naku abosonhlala kahle kulama region nemaswati lekathi naku avela nje e-ofisini. Ingcenye yama-case lawo-ke ma-cases emimoba ma-cases lama-case emimoba nasashonile babe boma-ke abasathola. I think lama-case lawo boma-ke bafelokati they are close to 100 across the country kuletemoba letikhona. Lamanye-ke ayaphenda-ke etinkantolo. Yes sicedzile kwasebenta ngala eSwatini ukuthi tindlunkulu tiyabati yini before ukuthi bese approacha tinkantolo. We have also received ama-case la khona ema-step children acosha bobabe babo ema-step fathers abo emakhaya ngekushona kwalabo maki. Lesithathu-ke bafelwa-ke labo libacoshwe emakhaya abo. Tindzaba leto ngicantsi tibe ngu-5 letifikile kulo mnyaka naku tasetshentwa etinye takhona letinye tiyaphenda. Ikakhulu-ke ema-cases laku abange ukuthi abe maningi kakhulu sitawuconza ukuthi dinengi tintfo leti naku leti beyimbangela ikakhulu ngekuthi Trump America akhone naku akhathe isupport lekubese ukuthi lama cases ethu singumhluma singakhona ukuthi siwasebente ngendlela lelefanele in terms of maybe siye on the ground isondaba inspection ilokho nama office abondaba zabantu. However akhona-ke ema-cases mnakethu lesikhona ukuthi siwasebente abayimpumelelo boma-ke babuyele naku emakhaya abo imihlaba abayitfolile. Ema-plans mnethu ukuthi we need to get ema-resources naku lamaningi ikakhulu inaku timoto leti ngito ukuthi tisithathe sitakhona ukuthi sihambe siyondaba inspection lokho nokuthi-ke sithole ama-officers lakhona because sibancane ngekwenani ehhovisi kephana sisevisa live lonke but nje iplan yethu ukuthi sichubeke siwasite eMaswati sithole lama-resources lafaka imoto ekhathi ema-resources ukuthi nalabantu lebasebentako bakhona ukuthi bathole imali ekupheni kwenyanga kuze laMaswati akhone ukuchubeka alithole lisito.
Umndeni wakagama endzaweni yasenhlokomeni edlangeni ngaphansi kwenkhundla yaseHukwini uthi awukakholwa emehlo awo mawukhanza kujutshwe daladi lobiyele indzawo yebhizinisi yamunye wabo. Dumisa Gama lo ngubabe wemnikati walendzawo uthi lo monakalo wenteke ngetithuba tensimbi 10 ekuseni kanti-ke umsa wakhe lobekangekho uma kwenteka lesigameko besalungiselela kwakha itolo letahlukene i-complex kulendzawo.
Nasifika kulenzawo sitholele umndeni kanye nabomakhelwane babuka lo monakalo kanti emaphoyisa emango lasiyilandzise ngalesigameko athi kubonakele madoda alalinganiselwa kulali-10 ajuba letigodvo tadaladi ngekuphuthuma lokukhulu asebenzisa imishini lemibili yekujuba tihlahla ema-homelight. Lamaphoyisa emango athi lamadoda abesalayisha lemishini emotweni labaleke ngayo kanti lamanye awo abaleke ngetinyawo lokwende ukuthi bakhone kubabona ukuthi babobani nekuthi basuka kulomunye umango lowakhelene nalesigodzi sabo kodwa bangaphansi kwemphakathi munye edlangeni. Dumisa Gama lo ngubabe walosomabhizinisi lo linyadelwe udaladi lwakhe uthi lesento sibadumete kakhulu bangumndeni.
Lo mfana wami longena akha lesitolo kuliphoyisa lambaba wathi nakufela iphupho ufuna wakha lesitolo wazi bengicela amalungise kuba beshief ufuna ukuthuthuzela ilivele sehloko mina wavele lide lutho akunasitolo akunali lenzawo saya ke shiya kuba beshief wasemukele leta libandla labeshief la befike layibona indzawo layiphasisa kwase kutaba amadoda befika lana amadoda laba indzawo yaphasa kwashaya bayethe namhla sesiyamazi kwekwentekani la ngoba sinesathu sikhulu sinye la dlangile simsusa sicela kiso tinto la dlangile.
Umnikati walendzawo sabelo gama lesichumane naye ngelucingo njengoba bekangekho ekhaya ngenxa yemsebenzi usichazele ukuthi sewuchithe imali lengetulu kwetinkulungwane letinge-30 kulendzawo. Lo khulumela umphakathi wasedlangeni Jabulani Gama uthi umphakathi utayisebenta ngetigaba letifanele lendzaba.
Wakhe ngalokusemthethweni ngoba lesitolo sikhondele wabiya commercial amadoda wasifinyela naye ngalokusemthethweni wathola emaphepha akhe. Siyethuka nje lokho ukuthi khona lesibamhlupha.
Sathi ke nasibiyeni kwale sitase ke sesihlala phasi ke sesibikela kahle lo mdzala ukuthi tinyathelo tiphi langadenda tekutsintsana nalaba labathumela labajubile.
Lisekela lemchumaniso emaphoyisa embobeni esive noSipho Mnguni uvumile ukuthi lesigameko sibikiwe emaphoyiseni noko kusede loboshiwe njengoba emaphoyisa asenta liphenyo lawo ngalendzaba. Kubika Mbongwa Dube edlangeni.
Kunemvubu leseyicitse umbila emasimini endzaweni yakandeva enkomazi ngaphansi kwenkhundla yasesipiki. Kanti-ke balimi sebaphoceleleke ukuthi bangasalimi emasimini ngoba lemvubu iyabodisa emasimini.
Letakhamuthi tisola ukuthi engathi ayisiyo yinye lemvubu lebahluphako njengoba basola ukuthi lithandana. Leti mvubu-ke njengoba basho tibhubhise umbila kangangobe lamanye emasimi abasawalimi. Bubodwa-ke bungoti baso ngoba sihle sijangaza nje noma kunini masifunile. Kuyabonakala-ke nalapho ihambe khona lemvubu iyabhatsa ngalolu nyawo lwayo lolukhulu.
Yithi simetlaceleni kwemifula nje thutana imifula ayikalinywa ngalokuthi le mvubu vele lapho ifika khona sonke isikhathi ihamba nje ifike konke laletule kude la ingahambi khona
ihamba izifike nalati tolo ebusuku nje so awusekho na safe nekuphuma nje ngabo 7 sisikile sazama ukukhuluma namalolo jana iweta abantu sikubukisa ukuthi solo kuyahamba naye siyofuna sithi bangasita kanjani la mvubini
bathini
basi bayabuya sola babuya so segadze bona.
Lo monakalo lesesibendile lesilwane semkhulu kakhulu kusukela sesina 4 years kahle kahle siphila nalesilwane lana ukuthi isolution lengaba khona ukuthi nasingamane sithole maybe fenisi simane sivale la kunalamasim khona.
Bathini labo bukele tilwane senake nabakhulumisa
basasijwayele kuhlala naso nalomnyaka lophelile phela vele sakhuluma nani bathi asijwayele sihlala naso.
Lo monakalo le wenda la masimini awubuyisi lutho kude lekuye kusibuyele iminyaka yonke solo sondla imvubu
sikhanza sekudlile seyidlile konke ngoba ishaya icothule yona ishiye nje kungumhlabathi ngakho ke vele bese awusatihluphi nalokulima ngoba phela tinto tekulima setadura nalokudula. Lekuyinkinga ke ukuthi phela nabaniki bati bemvubu abachamuki ukuthi basilekelele kule mvubu. kulesi kumosha kangaka lamakhaya. Asingacela laba buka itilwane tasendle ukuthi manje basibukele phela ukuthi imvubunzini sebangasilamulela kanjani ngayo.
Mina nje senalabo bhuti bami vele sesiyapatrol, sihlala lamasimini. Sigatha lesilwane njalo nga7 siyaphuma ngoba sheshe siphume. Sehlakalo maswati lamahle emasimini lamanye vele sesiyekela salimi.
Akusuke ukuqala-ke sihlupha lesilwane njengoba nanyakenye lo msakazo wabika ukuthi balimi bayakhala ngemvubu lebahluphako khona-ke kandeva. Imetamo yakuthola labagcina itilwane tasendle kayikabi impumelelo njengoba tincingo tabo tikhale tangabanjwa. Lobikako ngugiyani Msibi ngekandeva enkomazi.
Kutemidlalo iqembu leMalandi Chiefs lidlale ngokulingana neqembu leRoyal Leopard ngemagoli amathathu ngalana ngale emidlalweni wePremier League lodlalelwe enkundleni yaseKhilani yesibhiki.
Ichubekile imidlalo ye-MTN Premier League ngelisondo lapho khona enkundleni yasesibhiki Khilani Sports Ground liqembu leMalandi Chiefs lemukele liqembu leRoyal Leopard. Usaqala nje umdlalo kube injabulo kuyimalandi ngesikhathi sandile Leon Mazibuko alivalela ekhathi ngemuva kwemizuzu lemibili nje umdlalo udlaliwe. Ibuyileke imalandi yaphinze yathola i-free kick nayo yayivalela ekhathi ngemuva kwemizuzu lesithupha umdlalo uqalile, nalapho kwaba injabulo yodwa kubalandzeli yahlokoma eKhilani Sports Ground. Kuthi-ke ngemva kwemizuzu lelishumi umdlalo udlaliwe yalithola-ke lekuqala iRoyal Leopard ligoli lelishaywe nguLinda Mbuli lelibanike-ke lithemba ukuthi batawukhona kubuyela emidlalweni. Sisesingakapheli isigamu sekuqala Mohamed Anas we-Royal Leopard walithola lesibili lekulinganisa, sigaba sekuqala saphela ngalamabili ngala nangale. Kuthi-ke esigameni sesibili lamaqembu lamabili achubeka lapho agcine khona afaka-ke emandla impela, kwathi imalandi yalithola lesithathu kusele nje imizuzu lelishumi nelesihlanu ukuthi umdlalo uphele. Kodwa-ke Felix Badenhorst wayo iLeopard naye-ke lobese uyinika emandla wathi akuhlali kunje lothitena kangena kuso isigama sesibili wathola naye lesithathu. iLeopard-ke yalithola-ke nalo lesithathu lekulinganisa, waphela kanjalo-ke umdlalo ngamagoli lamathathu ngala nangale.
Angilungena sirelaxile bhuti ubabwa nje lamagoli angene first 6 minutes nje ecaleni, which means besingaka focus, so we need to focus vele nje for the first whistle bayashaya Rafael. So ngiloko lokusikhostile bese i-defense yethu nje ayikakhona ifunza ngeground ukuthi how linjani liyabisha yabo.
No, my main problem is our defense because we scored 3 goals. We didn't win, and most of the goals is been possible to avoid. Ball watching, free header, free cross, tap in. My players have to understand. You have to mark man to man.
Kanti kuleminye imidlalo ledlaliwe ngelisonto iManzini Wanderers idlala ngekulingana nelicembu leZulwini United ngeligoli linye nangale, kwathi iNsingizini Hotspurs yona yashaya icembu lesisonke ngeligoli linye ecanzeni. Lobikako ngugiyani Msibi na Fabrice Musonera eMbabane.
Umphathi wenhlangano yemidlalo wekubhukusha kuleli Nozipho Mahlalela uthi kulomnyaka lotako wa-2026 babukeke kutfola timendlela emidlalweni yema-junior kanye nema-senior Africa Championship. Mahlalela uthi kudlalisa imidlalo yesifundza kulomnyaka losetulu kubaniketa lithemba kulandzela ukuthi bakhona nekwekuthi babuye ekhaya netimendlela emidlalweni yaleli vekati.
Kulomnyaka lotako kakhulu sibuke itarget yokuthi at least nasingapodium kuma Africa Championships kwatise kuta ema-junior Africa Junior and Senior Africa Aquatics Championships eGhana April May of 2026. So we are really hopeful for at least a podium finish lapho. We also have a training first week or second week of January in 9 with an Olympic swimmer yase South Africa, Penny Haynes, utowenda i-camp yala Kangwani for ema level 2 swimmers ethu in preparation for lama competition leswa gatsile nga 2026. So siyathi nje sinelithemba futhi ukuthi ama-athletes ethu atawuchubeka aperforme nama-athletes laya eMpumalanga for i-training, lamanye atabe ase-Durban for i-trainings nawo nalase-Jozi currently for i-training.
Siphetha kanjalo ndzabadethu desiswati sitawubahlola etimakethe sitawubuya sichubeka nelihlelo masinyane.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. We look at our international news now. Deadly storms raged through Christmas in Southern California, where they are expected to persist. Many have had to evacuate their homes as firefighters rescue residents that are trapped from the severe conditions, which have blocked roads and cut power across the state.
Flash floods and mudslides submerged homes and vehicles in Southern California after a devastating Christmas Day storm. The torrential rains, which began Tuesday, have prompted evacuation orders and flood watches across the state, with 70,000 people losing power Thursday, according to a U.S. power outage tracking site. The National Weather Service said storms are expected to continue through Friday, warning that waves could reach up to 7.6 meters near the San Francisco Bay Area. Meanwhile, Californians are trying to recover from the damage already done.
When I woke up this morning, my wife casually mentioned that there was a river running through our property. I've seen houses being damaged where we've had damage on our property. This is definitely the worst of it, including being stuck at a house and having completely impassable roads.
The storms were brought on by an atmospheric river known as the Pineapple Express, which transports heavy moisture from Hawaii to the West Coast, bringing rain. Fire-burned scar zones, still recovering from last January's wildfires and less able to absorb water, were under special alert. Despite the chaos, as neighbors and firefighters rescued residents from trapped cars and flooded houses, some saw it as a positive display of Christmas spirit.
I find it kind of fitting because the holidays for me are supposed to be about being together and about helping out one another out.
California Governor Gavin Newsom declared an emergency in 6 counties to allow state assistance to be mobilized. Resources and first responders have been deployed, and the California National Guard was on standby.
At least 8 people, were killed and 18 wounded in a blast that struck a mosque in an Alawite neighborhood of Homs province in Syria. State media reported an Islamist militant group claimed responsibility for the attack.
Worshippers were in the middle of Friday prayers when the blast rang out. A series of explosions that shattered walls and windows and killed several people.
There was chaos and people were lying on the ground. Around 30 people were hit by the blast. Rescuers and ambulances arrived within 5 minutes to treat the wounded and deceased.
The area was quickly cordoned off by security forces as investigators began collecting evidence. They said several explosive devices had been planted inside the mosque, which is located in an Alawite neighborhood in the Syrian city of Homs. Dozens of people were injured by the blast and were rushed to a nearby hospital.
We had no idea what was happening. People started screaming and crying. I used my hand to try and stop the bleeding on my head.
A group later claimed responsibility for the attack, Saraya Ansar al-Sunnah, an ultra-conservative Sunni organization formed after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad in January. The militants had already claimed responsibility for a church bombing that killed 25 people in Damascus in June, and have openly criticized Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara'a, accusing him of renouncing his Salafist roots and of becoming an American agent since coming to power. Friday's attack was the latest in a series of sectarian clashes that have continued to destabilize Syria after Assad's departure.
Russia attacked Ukraine's capital with missiles and drones a day before the talks between Ukraine and the United States. Local authorities have confirmed this story.
In the early hours of Saturday, explosions were sighted on the horizon in Kyiv as the city's mayor warned residents to stay indoors. Officials are calling it a massive Russian attack. Just a day before, in Independence Square, Christmas decorations were barely visible under flags, pictures, and messages commemorating fallen Ukrainian soldiers. As the conflict with Russia approaches the start of its 5th year, and despite an ongoing diplomatic push by Washington, residents of the capital remain skeptical of seeing the war end anytime soon.
Unfortunately, there's little hope for change. My husband and my brother are both serving in the army, and we hope things will turn in our favor. But we're not willing to give up any territory.
Vladimir Zelensky, meanwhile, struck a more optimistic tone. The Ukrainian president said he would meet with Donald Trump on Sunday to discuss security guarantees and put the final touches to a joint 20-point peace plan that will be presented to Russia. Diplomatic efforts to end the war have so far run into conflicting demands by both sides. Kyiv recently said it was willing to withdraw its troops from the country's east, provided Russia does the same, effectively creating a demilitarized zone, monitored by international forces. But Moscow has given no signs it would agree to such a deal. Russia continues to demand that Ukraine relinquish its remaining territory in the Donbas region.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signaled possible progress toward a peace agreement with Russia. And this is after what he described as a really good conversation with the United States Special Envoy on Christmas Day, adding that he plans to meet Donald Trump soon to advance efforts to end the nearly 4-year war. Recent talks between U.S. and Ukrainian delegations have reportedly resulted in a 20-point proposal that has been sent to Moscow for feedback, even as fighting continues on the ground, with Russia launching more than 100 missiles into the Ukraine overnight.
Firefighters hose down this battered building, trying to stop fresh flames from taking hold after an overnight drone strike. Still smouldering, shocked residents evacuate. At least one person was killed in this northern Ukrainian city, hit for the second night in a row. Several others were injured. It's Ukraine's fourth Christmas living under the shadow of war.
The blast threw me backwards. Thank God there was no wall behind me. The apartment is gone.
In the south, artillery shells tore through a market, killing a 47-year-old worker. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched 130 drones the night before Christmas. For those on the front line, hopes of a ceasefire feel like a distant promise. But Ukraine's president says he's cautiously optimistic after talks with the special US envoy on a possible path to ending the war.
It was a truly good conversation with many details. Good ideas were discussed. We have some new ideas of our own on how to bring true peace closer. And this concerns formats, meetings, and certainly timing.
Kyiv released an updated 20-point plan on Wednesday, offering Russia the potential withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from the east and the creation of a demilitarized zone in their place. Experts say Moscow is unlikely to agree to it. Russia's foreign ministry says it's analyzing the plan and making slow but steady progress.
Yemen's Southern Transnational Council separatists accused Saudi Arabia of carrying out airstrikes on their position in the east of the country. This is a claim that Riyadh has not acknowledged.
Yemeni separatists are on high alert in southern cities after strikes the Southern Transitional Council has blamed on Saudi Arabia. These images, broadcast on the STC's television channel Friday, appear to show attacks near the group's positions in Wadi Nahab in the country's southeast. The latest escalation since the Emirati-backed group seized large swathes of territory last month in its goal to revive the formerly independent state of South Yemen. Soon after the strikes, supporters gathered in the STC-controlled port city Aden, undeterred in their demands. This woman says she is ready to die by a tank or missile as long as they get their state back.
The people of the south stood by the Saudi-led coalition with their blood and their youth, but today's strikes are seen as a direct threat to this population.
Once united by the Iran-backed Houthis, Yemen's map now shows a fractured alliance. The internationally recognized government backed by Saudi Arabia clings to central strongholds and scattered territory, while the STC now claims much of the south. Riyadh has not commented on the strikes, but a Yemeni official in the capital has told local media that the kingdom may consider military action if talks with the separatists collapse. Around 15,000 Saudi-backed fighters are reportedly massed near the border. For now, the STC says it won't back down, but maintains it's still open to dialogue with Riyadh.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that the United States has launched precision hits on terrorist targets in Nigeria by airstrikes. The claim came in a Christmas night social media post that offered a few details. The U.S. Africa Command later confirmed the strikes were conducted at the request of Nigerian authorities, who said multiple Islamic State group militants were killed.
The U.S. escalated from words to action. A month after President Donald Trump threatened military intervention, his administration launched strikes against Islamic State militants in northwestern Nigeria Thursday. Trump announced the move in a post on Truth Social.
The United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries.
Though officials did not specify who was targeted, the strikes were carried out in Sokoto, where the Islamic State-affiliated group Lakurawa has carried out attacks on local communities. In a statement, Nigeria said the strike was done in coordination with the African country.
Nigerian authorities remain engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States of America, in addressing the persistent threat of terrorism and violent extremism.
In Trump's announcement, he drew attention to his previous threat of consequences if the killing of innocent Nigerian Christians continued. Trump and the U.S. right have repeatedly claimed that Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria, which the country's government has denied, and which analysts say oversimplifies complex acts of violence.
Somalia reacted angrily on Friday, the 26th of December, after Israel formally recognized the northern region of Somaliland as an independent and sovereign state. Now, the first country to do so, Somaliland, which declared independence from Somalia in 1991, has for decades pushed for international recognition. United States President Donald Trump said he opposed U.S. recognition of Somaliland in an interview with the New York Post.
This weekend, as Israel became the first UN member state to formally recognize Somaliland as an independent nation, U.S. President Donald Trump refused to immediately follow suit and questioned if the breakaway region was even widely known at all.
I want you to know that I'm signing now, as we speak, Israel's official recognition of Somaliland and its right of self-determination. Our friendship is seminal and historic.
Somaliland is a former British colony. It initially formed the Somali Republic with the Italian-administered territory of Somalia. But feelings of marginalization and a coup in Mogadishu led to a war of independence in the 1980s. Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991 and has pushed for international recognition for decades. It has its own currency, army, police, and it maintains diplomatic relations with several countries, including the United Kingdom, Ethiopia, and Taiwan. But Israel is the first country to officially recognize Somaliland.
Somaliland has received its first formal international recognition as a sovereign and independent state. This development affirms an objective reality that has long existed.
Its geographic proximity to Yemen and its coastline on the Red Sea could allow it to become a base for operations against the Houthis, according to a report from an Israeli think tank. For its part, Somalia's foreign ministry denounced Israel's recognition of Somaliland as a deliberate attack on its sovereignty, while the African Union warned the move set a dangerous precedent.
Moscow has made a proposal to France concerning the case of researcher Laurent Vinatier, who has been imprisoned in Russia since the June 2024. Now, the Kremlin said on Thursday Vinatier was sentenced by a Russian court to 3 years in prison for allegedly failing to register a foreign agent, but faces fresh allegations of spying.
A ray of hope for Laurent Vinatier, the 49-year-old French researcher who's been sitting in a Russian jail for over a year, could potentially be freed by Moscow as part of a diplomatic deal with French authorities.
There have been relevant contacts between our side and the French government. A proposal was made regarding Vinatier. The ball is now in France's court. An advisor for a Switzerland-based NGO, Vinatier was arrested in Moscow in June 2024. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for failing to register as a foreign agent while collecting information about Russia's military activities. Earlier this year, Vinatier was also reportedly charged with espionage and could now face up to 20 years in jail. French authorities have slammed his 3-year sentence as extremely severe and the charges as politically motivated, while repeatedly calling for the scholar's immediate release.
None of the rumors and propaganda surrounding Vinatier are anchored in reality. We're calling on Russia to clarify these accusations and to free him as soon as possible.
The call had largely fallen on deaf ears until last week, when a French journalist directly asked Vladimir Putin about Vinatier's fate. The Russian president didn't immediately give a clear answer, but Moscow now appears to have made an offer to free the researcher, possibly as part of a prisoner swap with France. Such exchanges have become commonplace since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Last year, several journalists and dissidents were freed by Moscow after a deal with the US, marking the largest prisoner swap since the end of the Cold War.
Well, Ukrainians have been celebrating their fourth Christmas at war, with the holiday coming to bear the hallmarks of restored traditions, long forgotten cadres after they were repressed during the Soviet era. However, while many are trying to take a certain comfort in the moment, the war with Russia is as always ever present.
Against the grey Kiev skies, a procession of carols in colour in celebration of Christmas. But there's always a reminder that the war is never far away. Sirens signal an incoming Russian drone.
Shaheds, go away, and we'll keep on singing.
As the alert lifts, the procession continues, a symbol of Ukraine's unwillingness to give in.
I think that restoring our traditions is also one of the options for fighting the occupier, because he wants to trample on our traditions. Moreover, Putin refused to take a pause during Christmas, which means he terrorizes us during Christmas as well.
2 years ago, President Volodymyr Zelensky moved up Christmas to December 25th, a way to distance Ukraine still further from the Russian Orthodox Church and its own celebrations on January 7th. And Ukrainians have been resurrecting other traditions once repressed during the Soviet era.
This year I learned carols, I decorated a star, sewed and embroidered a shirt. I see our identity in it. You can't beat us if we are distinctive. No one can impose their will on us. No one can take it from us.
For many, Christmas represents a moment of comfort, particularly those who've spent time on the front line.
It's important to combine the understanding that we are now in a state of war, and the war costs us very dearly every day. But at the same time, we must celebrate another Christmas that has come with even more spirit.
A few hundred meters away, though, another gathering, one less festive, for friends and families of prisoners of war in Russian hands demanding their freedom. For some, it's their fourth Christmas as prisoners in a row.
Somalians turned out in droves on Thursday to vote in local elections in the capital of Mogadishu, the first by universal suffrage in nearly 60 years, with the city locked down amid security concerns.
Outside polling stations in Mogadishu, long queues form as residents wait to vote in Somalia's municipal elections. Some 400,000 people are registered to vote for 390 district council seats, choosing from some 1,600 candidates. After weeks of intense electoral campaigns, voters are keen to cast their ballot.
It's my first time voting. From today on, I hope this kind of election continues. We want the rule of law and good governance.
The poll marks a historic break from a clan-based system put in place after the fall of Siad Barre's authoritarian government, which ruled from 1963 to 1991, under which direct voting was not allowed. The election is now a bold step towards a one-person, one-vote system.
It's a big historic day. After more than 50 years, Mogadishu people are able to elect their real representatives. It's a peaceful city with a greater tranquility. It is a city without war, and it shows the world it can hold elections.
The vote was postponed 3 times this year as the East African country remains scarred by decades of conflict, climate disasters and a brutal Islamist insurgency, battling the al-Qaeda-affiliated armed group Al-Shabaab since the mid-2000s. While the security in the capital of 3 million has improved, continued threats from Al-Shabaab and opposition boycotts cast a long shadow over the democratic process. Some 10,000 security staff have been deployed to safeguard polling stations, and roads, the port and airport remain shut to all traffic. The election process is seen as a test ahead of the presidential ballot due in 2026, as President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed's term comes to an end and a new head of state will be indirectly elected by.
For anyone who overindulged during the holidays, the hype around weight loss drugs like Ozempic can be tempting. Originally developed to treat diabetes, now the medication suppresses appetite, and in the United States, where oversized portions and fast food reign, its effects are even noticeable in New York restaurants.
At a typical gastropub in the United States, an American might expect a burger to come with 2 patties and a heaping helping of fries. But this New York bar is hoping to attract customers who want the fun of a night eating out without having to actually do much of it. They've even decorated this teeny-weeny burger with a plastic syringe of ketchup, a nod to the injectable GLP-1 drugs stifling the appetites of countless customers.
It started as a GLP-1 option because I was going out and seeing people eat a lot less and take 1 bite of their food and one sip of their drink, and that was it. And it was kind of sad. And then on top of that, seeing the mass amount of waste that people weren't eating.
Since their launch in the United States in 2017, the prevalence of GLP-1 agonists such as Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro have grown worldwide. Initially created to combat type 2 diabetes, these drugs have been repurposed by non-diabetics to help them lose weight. 1 in 10 Americans already take GLP-1s, like this self-described foodie who lost 9 kilograms in 2 months. She also found the drugs helped her change her habits.
I cut down on alcohol a lot, and I was starting to work out a little bit more, get more steps in every day. And since I lost my appetite quite a bit, I had to be very mindful of making sure I ate a lot of proteins.
This week, the U.S. approved a GLP-1 drug that can be taken orally instead of injected, which is expected to broaden access to the treatment for even more Americans.
All right, that marks the end of our international outlook this morning. We'll go for a net break as we curtain our episode today.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Usadlo mahle sesifike emaphethelweni ehlelo lethu lalo mhla simawuthi nihleli nathi lo mhla ekuseni sethemba elisuku litawuba luhle asiphindze sibonane kusasa ekuseni ngalesibili sale kahle.